this video we're going to talk about software testing, what it means, what it can do, and what we should be doing. So let's first talk about the definition. Software testing means checking the reasonableness of your software through the means such as test cases and datasets. Test cases are typically developed during the requirements elicitation phase of your software development process, because the test cases are really based on what you are expecting from the software in terms of its behavior. So the best time to develop the test cases is during the requirements elicitation phase, because that's when you find out exactly what's expected out of the software, and by testing the test cases you can actually see whether the developed software can satisfy all the initial requirements collected initially during the requirements elicitation phase. Another aspect of software testing is testing whether the software can handle the input provided by the users. Hence, the importance of datasets to be used during the testing process. The activities involved in software testing includes things like stressing the software by providing inputs, and the inputs in this case could be something in a normal range, what the software is expecting. It could be out of bound type of inputs, so therefore unexpected type of inputs. It could also be an invalid type of input. So the idea here is, even if you provide unexpected inputs, the software should be still behaving properly by handling the invalid, out of bound type of inputs as well as the expected inputs. And then of course the next step is to see what happens. So observe here means basically watching what happens when we provide these different types of inputs to the software. When testing, there are some important things to consider. One of them is this idea of separation of duties. So if the programmers test their own software or code all the time, that could be problematic. Of course they can test their software during the implementation phase, where they conduct a unit test and so on. But when the development is finally done, if they still test their own code, that may introduce some problems, especially in terms of objectivity. And also it's possible for them to miss some of the obvious problems their software might have, because they are just so used to the software. So in addition to the programmers, the testers should be people who aren't really the programmers themselves. And that's why having a third-party group as software testers is very important or crucial. First of all, to avoid a conflict of interest, and also to produce more objective and comprehensive results. Depending on the accessibility of the source code, testing methods could be categorized into the following three types. The first one is called black box testing, and in this case the source code is not available at all to the testers, so they can only test the software by providing certain inputs or by interacting with the software as only end users. Another type of testing is called white box testing, in which testers have access to the source code, so they can actually test the integrity of the source code by inspecting the source code line by line, and they can try different things based on how the source code is written. So the testers have more leverage with the white box testing scenario. Finally, there is another type of testing called gray box testing, in which you mix black box testing and white box testing together, and although in this case the source code is available to the testers, it is mainly used to guide the black box testing rather than trying to inspect the flow of the code or the quality of the code by inspecting it line by line for its entirety. In addition to the types of testing I mentioned earlier in the previous slide, there are software testing types that are a little more security specific or more geared towards security. One of them is called static testing, also called static analysis. In this case, the testers, they have access to the source code, and the goal is to really analyze the source code to identify any potential vulnerabilities found in the source code. So the main thing about this type of testing is you're not really running the software to do the testing, but the software is pretty much static, meaning not running, and you're simply analyzing the code or the source code of the software. So it has its own limits because you cannot really observe the dynamic behavior of the software when you're testing the software because the software is not running. So that's why you have another form of testing, security testing, called dynamic testing, also called penetration testing, and this is mainly done when the software is up and running, and the testers will try different things to see if they can exploit any sort of vulnerabilities found in the software. However, this type of testing can also cause some unintended consequences, such as disruption of service or bringing down the software itself so that the business is somehow disrupted.